There we go. All right, now we're going to start with the core purpose statement. Before we do, have any of you already created your purpose statement? Or first of all, I'll say that any of you have a purpose statement that you feel is just really knock it out of the park. This is who I am. Amelia, you do? Would you like to share it with us?
Sure. Okay. I'm a true believer in leading with authenticity, empowering others through coaching, striving for growth. I feel that I am mutually transformed while transforming others because humans are simultaneously reflected, impacted, and changed by continuous interactions with others. I am resilient and curiously enthusiastic in evaluating how to raise the bar for myself and for others.
That is so beautiful. When you hear that, do you feel like that gives you an insight into who Amelia is? Yes. Thank you, Amelia. That's beautiful.
You're welcome. Thank
On the
you.
other side of this, how many of you have ever done a purpose statement exercise in a business you were working with? And you come in and everybody has, we're going to put these words out. This is the sentence structure. We're going to create these, and you create a purpose statement and you leave the meeting and you put it in the drawer and you never look at it again. Anybody relate to that? Yeah. All right. So those aren't supporting us very much, correct? John is very intentional about the fact that with intelligent leadership, we don't talk about it being a purpose statement. We talk about it being a core purpose statement. And when you see the wheel and you think of the wheel, the inner core informing the outer core, the strength, the health, and the vibrancy of our inner core is what supports us in the execution of those things that our others see in our outer core. How many of you have ever met someone, and this could be yourself, raise your hand if it's you as well. How many people do you believe that, have you ever met at least one person who you think you could tell us what their core purpose statement is just by the way they model their lives, just by the way that they are, that you would probably know what their purpose statement was? Fabiola? Yeah. What is it about that person? What is it that has you feel like you know what their purpose is?
Because the coherence between his acts and the way he talks, the way he behaves.
I think perhaps consistency in who they say they are and what they are. So it's authentic, they're authentic people. You can trust them. You know that they are true to themselves and to others.
And also in this case, he is very open to show his vulnerability as part of his integration as a human being.
Spectacular. Spectacular.
Yeah, they walk the talk.
Yes, they walk the talk.
So that's what I've seen.
Yes. What we want to create, what we want to put our coaching clients in the best position to create as well, is that. And it's important that we have it as different than a head exercise of a purpose statement, because as we're going through our journey, now we're doing the same thing as coaches. We're creating our own because we're modeling. We're becoming a reference reservoir. We talked about references. This is a reference reservoir for someone who may not have done this. And we can talk about our journey. We can talk about how many iterations over several years. Mine has evolved over the years as I have continued to evolve. But the essence of who I am and the more clarity I got, and actually a big part of it is the more permission I gave myself to be who I am. Early in my professional career, I wasn't invited to be who I was. I was invited to be someone who didn't show much emotion, who was very, very professional, very representative of a male-dominated environment that had a certain way of looking at things. So my purpose statement and all the things I did were very much that way. I didn't do that exploration. And now my purpose statement completely represents who I am. So it's iterations over a period of time as we are giving ourselves permission, and we're in an environment where we're permitted to be that as well. And so a lot of what we're going to be doing in the purpose statement exercises is helping people step into the permission that they may not have felt they had, or legitimately may not have had, or didn't even realize how to express. Okay. So we very, very specifically, the language that we include is the word core. We're creating a core purpose statement because we're going to our core, and that anchors us in. What you're going to see is that every single thing we do as coaches, as we go through intelligent leadership, is we have our coach and client anchor what they're doing through their core purpose statement. And the core purpose statement is going to be shared. However, it doesn't need to be their final version of it. And I'm going to show you that sometimes people will share their first high-level sentence, but like Amelia modeled, she had multiple sentences. She may choose to share in a corporate environment one, but the deeper expression of it, she doesn't share with others, or she would only share, on request. So when we look at it, there are applications of it, but it's that whether it's us in our personal life or us in our professional life, it represents us and it evolves with us. Everybody good with that? All right. Questions about that before we get started? All right, just like we did with the MLEI, stop me as we're going through if there are any questions you've got. John is smiling. He's very happy here. We're here working with the core purpose statement. What I've learned in my life over the years, my professional career was in enterprise application software sales for more than 30 years. And I worked with leaders at all levels and in companies of all sizes up to Fortune 10 size companies. And so I learned that if I was using a word or a phrase based on my understanding of it, and I did not have clarity and alignment with what everyone else who I was with was the way they were using the word, that I could either misrepresent, underserve, or completely miss the mark. Because if I'm saying something and they've got their own interpretation of it, their own understanding of it, when I'm talking about it, they have to stop and they're like, well, what is she saying? This is what I think it is. That doesn't make sense to me. I'm not in alignment with it. And then by the time they don't get caught back up again. So we lose something in translation. And I don't mean the language. I mean the translation of the understanding. So I am very, very specific in many, many places in the coaching journey about teach me the way that you would express this. What are the words you would use to define this? Let's make sure we're using a common understanding and a common definition so that we're in alignment. And so I'll begin very simply with this one. And I'm not saying these are the definitions for these. I'm saying that these are standard definitions, but you'll notice that it says vision statement, purpose statement, and mission statement. And these are traditionally, a vision statement traditionally is like the vision of the future. Traditionally, it's about the why or the reason that we exist. And the mission statement is typically, how we're going to fulfill the purpose and for whom. So those kinds of things. But again, we get validation with them. However, where we're going to then take that is to say, we're not going to be doing a purpose statement. We're going to be going into your core purpose. We get them to define what purpose statement means for them. We don't have to necessarily give them this definition ahead of time. We ask them, what is your definition of a purpose statement? What is your definition of a vision statement? What is your definition of a mission statement? So we get their language. And again, we don't have to show them this because we don't, but we can if they're not really clear. But we want to make sure that we're understanding what they're saying. So then when we talk about the core purpose statement, it's making sure that we're really, really, really getting inside. Because when we're showing them the wheel, and we do that from the very beginning, and this is why we start with the core purpose statement, the health and vibrancy of who we are on the inside is what we model as we are doing the parts of our life and work as leaders that show on the outside. And we want to be in integrity with that. We want the health and vibrancy and the integrity of how we are on the inside to be the way that we are working on the outside. So for everything that we're doing, we're in alignment with that. As we go through the pillars, so by the way, one of the things that I do as a coach, I have several of these slides. I've laminated them, or you can put them in plastic or whatever. And I show them to my coaching clients all the time, and we'll walk through. And then when we do their core purpose statement, we model that. So as you're looking through, whether it's the wheel and the pillars or whatever it is that you've got, these are things that help anchor them, that help remind them, that go back so you can have the conversation and they see where things fit and they recognize what they're doing. So in the beginning, in the very first conversation we're having, we're listening for where they may not have clarity on their purpose, where they may be misaligned with things, or where they may be in alignment and things are great. So we're asking questions. We're not saying, well, what's your purpose statement, as we're getting to know them, but we're listening to how they're speaking, and you can hear that in that. Then we start off by inviting them into the starting point of their core purpose statement, which, just like everything else we're doing in intelligent leadership, is a process. You start this, and the more that you work through something and you start evolving, you're learning more, and you go back and you refine, but you've got a starting place. And then when we learn more about ourselves, we're like, hey, you know what? Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to refine that, because, I see I'm getting permission for myself to, and this is important to me. And I haven't ever put it in my purpose statement because I didn't think I should. Yes, but this isn't a purpose statement. This is your core. This is who you are. And if that's in alignment with who you are, then we want to make sure we've got it. So again, through permission and encouragement and nurturing, we're inviting people into going deeply into their core and supporting it. And then what we're doing is, when we get to this STLI 360, where we're looking at, well, let me go quickly to the MLEI. When we do the MLEI and we see how we're naturally wired to view the world, and we're maybe for the first time looking at it through how we're deciding or how we're making aware of our core, we can see, well, we may want to include some things, or there's some things that we didn't recognize in ourselves, or we hadn't given ourselves permission to recognize. Now we want to start incorporating those into our core purpose statement as well. And then these are the things that support us when we look at how others perceive us. And what we see is that now that we're understanding who we are at our core and who we choose to be and how we choose to model that, we can see where we're in alignment with that, how others perceive us, and how others don't perceive us that way. And Fabiola, you gave a great example of someone that you observed, and they were very much in alignment with that. So they would see that. And then when we do the exercise of the, the individual leadership development plan, you'll see the slide. It's going directly through the core purpose statement. We're going to make sure we're in alignment with what we're doing. So as leaders in our development, we're not doing what somebody else is telling us, you got to do it this way. We're looking at what's the best way and the most valuable way for us to be doing this, so that we're achieving these outcomes that are very specifically identified, that we're putting in our plan and we're prioritizing. Then the coaching experience happens. Then when you do that leader watch survey to evaluate how well you're showing up, you're going to again go through that purpose statement to say, are we in alignment with that? So it all goes back through. Okay. So it's not a one and done exercise. I've been refining mine for several years, and I love the statement that I have now. I have, and you'll get to see it. My statement used to have a lot of sentences to it, and I've simplified it for right now, for today. I have one sentence, and I'm good with that. And I may go back to having more sentences. Who knows? All of this is in alignment, and because we've just gone through doing all of this today, I'm not going to walk through the depth of it. Yet what we want it to do, we want it to, if you feel like it's just pulling out from the center of who we are, and it is for years, even if we didn't know it, it has framed our beliefs, our references, our values, which frame how we think and feel and act, which frame how we show up. And a lot of it is that whether we've been given permission or not to do that. All right. So one of the things that John says that's really powerful is a way of framing this. And there's a very faith-oriented way of saying this as well. But if you're trying to lead and you really don't know your core purpose, It's kind of like framing up a house without laying a foundation first. You don't necessarily believe in it. You're using words that sound good, but they don't really express who you are. And when we go through challenges, as we all will, it doesn't really anchor us. We want that core purpose statement to anchor us no matter what happens. In the messy middle of change, in those beautiful times of celebration, in those times of reflection and growth, it is going to support us all the time through all of those components. John's core purpose statement, he has the single sentence and he has the breakdown of it. So in one sentence, and what you're going to see is there's no one right way to do a core purpose statement either. John's is, I'm an integral, loving, empathetic, faithful, loyal, kind, harmless, respectful, vital, inspiring, and a student of life. Okay? When you look at that, that's his core purpose statement. Here's, however, what he does with that. So if somebody asked him, what's your core purpose? This is what he would begin with. And yet if they said, well, tell me more. What he did, and you're going to have the slide, so you'll see that what he's done is he breaks down in the remember Rich mentioned the I am statement. We do everything in the I am because the I am is the who we are. It's not the who we aspire to be or who we want to prevent ourselves from being or whatever. This is the I am. So he has the I am statement for each one of the words in his core purpose statement. It's just one example. So there's no misunderstanding about John. And by the way, having known him for nearly 10 years now, that's John. And he has not wavered from that. One of the most vulnerable people I've met doesn't need to be the person who's right all the time. As a matter of fact, he encourages us to challenge because he knows that through that we'll grow and we do it respectfully. This is the slide. You're going to see this slide multiple times throughout Intelligent Leadership. I'm not asking you to even reflect on it. I don't want to spend any time going through all the boxes. We will multiple times. What I want you to see, though, is that when we get to the right-hand side, prescription before diagnosis, the left-hand side's the diagnosis. Then we're putting together the components of the prescription. Then we're going to create the prescription, and we're going to go through executing it. The core purpose statement is what we go through before we create that prescription, which is the individual leadership development plan. And then it's the anchor when we're implementing that individual leadership development plan through the work that we're doing with coaching them, through the feedback and how we embrace the feedback and everything else. Okay. So let me stop for a moment. We've got some questions. Let me stop share so we can go through the questions. Yes, Fabiola?
Yes, I'm wondering in terms of how you, the approach that you have with your client towards generating the CPS, if you have into consideration the cultural component, because as you may know or not, in Latin America, even we share the language, we are very different one part of the world with another. So how do you approach that?
Thank you so much for raising that question. This is huge. And I'm going to use the word vulnerable and vulnerability to begin with, okay? Everything you're learning in intelligent leadership has you then go through the lens of the country, the language, the words that are correct. We're not telling you, I want you to have people be in integrity with what they're saying. I want them to be true to themselves. But for example, in the United States, we've transitioned, much of us as a culture, from thinking being vulnerable was a bad thing. And we still do talk about, for example, young children who are vulnerable or people who are vulnerable or vulnerability in parts of the world. We also have a definition of it is being open to exploring. If that's a word that's not in your culture, do not use it. We do not tell you anything to use. We want you to be in integrity with it. Now, here is where cohorts have come in, is how can we most effectively use this, or what words might work for you? How might you think about doing this so that when you're talking, either you're comfortable in wherever your country and culture are, or you're working with a coaching client in another culture. And we have some coaches who live in one country and coach in other parts of the world. So they reach out to coaches from that part of the world and say, how would I address this? What are the words that I would or wouldn't use? Okay. So the intelligent leadership, John talks about it being a family, and this is part of the reason why. Okay. So excellent question. Does that help support you with the answer?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I use, for example, the tool that it's named the social identity wheel.
Okay.
Part of the first session, so I am able to know more about the person. And it helps me also to establish some common components that we have together.
Yes.
That makes a good rapport. But yes, and not only the culture from the country, but also from the organization itself.
That's a very good point. There's culturally in the country they're from. There's culturally in the company, and then there are also trigger words that each of us as individuals have. And I was in junior high school when that was introduced to me, and it was interesting. You know how every once in a while you've had a lesson in school somewhere and it really stuck with you? Was like way out there. This has stuck with me. That growing up in the family of my origin, there were certain words that were trigger words. They weren't trigger words to other people, but they were trigger words for me. And when I stepped into coaching, and when I stepped, a big part of what I was doing is in sales, I said I prepared people to buy. I learned how to connect value. So I asked a lot of questions. One of the things I would ask was what were trigger words. I would ask them for definitions of words they were using in trigger words because we want to help them not have that misalignment. So excellent point with that. And anything you can do to support that is great. And then if you want to share with other people things that you've learned about that, we can all learn together from it. So excellent. Carolina.
Thank you, Sue. Respect the concern, the thing that you were talking with Fabiola. I think that it's our Occidental culture that vulnerability is look like a weakness.
Yes.
For example, in my family, it was more common not being aware of the emotions. So I grew up thinking that I having emotions, and
Yeah.
I am engineer, so worst. Well, then I realized that I was a machine of emotions. But the thing that I wanted to tell you is that maybe now I understanding more the CPI because I am a little bit confused with Simon Sinek, the why, because maybe it's like something, I don't want to say that it's fancy, but everybody's looking for its purpose. And maybe he talks more about the purpose of what you're working for day after day. But now when you put the example of John, I understand that it's I am, no what I want to maybe live in my in the earth because of my work, because my purpose I think it's very like oriented to the things that I want to do every day, that it's to do advocacy for the people with disability, but it's not what but it's now I'm going to think of the CPI because I was confused and what I am in my inner me.
Yes. That's so beautifully
What I
stated.
want
Thank
to
you.
do.
Yes. Thank you for stating that. And I will share that when I speak, and sometimes I do leadership keynotes and things as well, I say very respectfully, and I use an excerpt of what Simon's image is, like with the bullseye thing. And I say, before you start with why, start with who, you.
Mm.
That when we understand, then we can understand our why, and we can then roll it out. So when we're invited into understanding and giving ourselves the gift of who we are and exploring that, and permission to explore the who we are, making sure we're in alignment with the why we are. Does that make sense? Because I thought that's really basically what you were just saying. I just language it a little bit differently. And the center of my bullseye is
Thank you.
you. Yes, thank you. Claudia. Thank you, Fabiola.
Yeah, just thank you for the comments. I think that for many of us, we've been exposed to different tools, right? There's one in particular that I've been using for the last 4 years, which is the VIA character set of characteristics, strengths. So it throws out 24 prioritized characteristics that has been done by psychologists studies. It's really well supported and referenced and everything. And out of those, it always matches what the person recognizes in them. So it feels familiar when I looked at what you're sharing with us. And from that, you can choose the one that are the strongest or the weakest that you would like to develop more, because you have them all. They're not at your highest potential, right?
Mhm.
And then you start working and recognizing yourself from those characteristics. It could be humility, it could be generosity, it could be whatever.
Sure.
And it's fantastic because whatever you put those characteristics into sort of like a vacuum and a funnel, let's say, and you start choosing and prioritizing, and something that is you comes about, right? Something that it turns out to be the representation of how you're feeling today with what you're doing. And it has to be renewed all the time, revisited, let's say, right?
Revisit it all the time.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's I think that the fact that you have a set of like an inventory of words where you can go to and choose is very strong, whereas Simon Sinek's, which I've used a lot as well, doesn't give you that much, because you have to work in a vacuum, in isolation, and is you the coach or the facilitator who has to provide for those that language. It puts the coachee or the executive in a very challenging position, I would say.
Yes, that very powerful. Vishak, I will get to you in just a moment. I'd like to make a comment that follows up on what Claudia said. One of the really transformational things in my life that I connected with after I started studying intelligent leadership is there's a gentleman who's also a very, very fabulous communicator and coach whose name is Marcus Buckingham. Have any of you heard of Marcus Buckingham? Okay. He has a lens that was transformational for me in my life of permission oriented. And he said it's great for us to learn what our strengths and our weaknesses are. It's great for us to define those. However, he said where the greatest impact is going to be, the greatest inflection points are going to be, is what strengthens you and what weakens you. So we know what our strengths are pretty much, and we know what our weaknesses are. We can write those down. But what strengthens you is what lights you up, what energizes you, what you can't wait to do. It has nothing to do with how good you are at it. For example, for me, I love to sing. The only way money would be associated with me singing is people paying me not to sing, because I can't carry a tune in a bucket or anywhere else. However, when you're not around, I sing and I'm filled with joy. So it strengthens me. Okay. And the other thing is also what weakens us, what drains us from energy. I, for example, for many, many years was in a role that the title of it had sales in it. It was my responsibility to get contracts from people to do things. Well, I didn't ever want to ask people for money. I wanted to connect people with the value so they could see success. So I did a really good job of that, and they offered to give me money for it, which was great. This is great. They wanted to invest in it. So something that well, now when I volunteer, because people saw that I was in sales, they always want me to be in fundraising. No, I don't want to do that. So when we understand what strengthens us and what weakens us as we create our core purpose, we understand how we create it from the place of, from the inside of us, as opposed to the outside of us, what we're good at, because what we're good at, we may not really enjoy. And to the point with Marcus Buckingham, he's got a whole booklet, a whole book on it, and he's got exercises for things to do with it. And I'm glad to share more details of it at some point in time. But as you're looking at the core, what we want to do is not stop with the words at the head level. We want to get the words that come from the inside of us of who we cannot not be. Okay. All right. Is that helpful? Okay. Bashak?
Yeah, actually, as far as I remember, I took the course, John's course 8 years ago. There can be not only words, but poetry, music, these type of
Yes.
stuff can also help to develop your core purpose statement in a creative way.
Which
This
is a good
what I-
point, and that's still there, and we're going to show that. So excellent point of that. There's no one right way of doing it. Yes, see, very good. That's one of those examples where it lasts with you for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we
Because
do
I
it.
had chosen already my song, which was
Oh,
really
good. Oh,
my
how
core
exciting.
purpose statement.
We've
Yeah.
had people who've painted things. We've got people who've done infographics, who've got music, poetry, all kinds of ways. So there's no one right way of doing it. Thank you for sharing that. That's just so wonderful. So as we go through here and we're talking about this, where did my share button go? Hang on just a moment. Okay. That was interesting. My Zoom window moved where share was. Okay. One of the reasons that we are creating our core purpose statement is that when we think of our comfort zone, which is where we would all prefer to stay, in order for us to maximize our potential, we have to have the confidence to be able to step outside that and to go into life and into the uncertainty. So the more anchored we are with a comfort zone, with our core purpose statement, when we are getting the courage to step outside our comfort zone, or something just rips us outside our comfort zone, we still have an anchor. I'm using an American-based example, and there are examples of this from all over the world. I don't know how many of you have ever heard this story, but there are several points I want to make with this. One of them is that they use the word credo. And so when we talk about core purpose, and we're talking about it coming from the core, you can culturally have a different word for it. We just don't want it to be a head exercise. We want it to be the thing that anchors you. And so theirs was something that would anchor them no matter what. And that what they wanted to make sure that their credo did is to challenge them in every decision point, like we just talked about, every step along the way. Put the needs and the well-being of the people they served first. Okay, so for your coaching client, it's going to put them first and what they are and who they are. All right. This was tested for them in a very significant way. Oh yes, it was created in 1943. So they were significantly tested, and there's a whole big story about it. But there was something called the Tylenol scare, and it was I think in 1999, and someone put poison in several of the bottles of Tylenol, and several people died from it. And there, immediately there was a great amount of fear, because Tylenol was recognized as the #1 brand. the company Johnson & Johnson, very safe and all those things. And what the Mr. Burke did, the CEO at the time, when he said, how do we protect the people? That was their first strategy. What they did is they went throughout the country and they took every single bottle of Tylenol off the shelves. They said, we don't know what caused it. We don't know where it is. We are not going to put anyone at risk. We're going to protect the people. So they invested a significant amount of money to take it off the shelves and then to figure out how to make medicine safer for their consumers. And they recognized all of the things. They were upfront. We're going to lose some people. They're not going to want to do business with us. We're going to other kind of things. But we would rather live through the credo that we created, which is to be protecting the people who we serve and their well-being. And now the company, they came through very well. Their Harvard study, there's studies all over the world about how well they did this. So it's not that you're going to have something of that significance. What you want for your coaching client, what you want in your core purpose statement is no matter what comes at you, no matter what yanks you out of your comfort zone, or no matter where you start stepping out of your comfort zone, that your core purpose statement anchors you so that no matter what the magnitude of it is, it's there with you and for you. And that you model that with your coaching clients so that they understand it's the difference between something that on paper looks really good and something that is going to support them in their lives. Okay. There's Rich's smiling face. Here's Rich's core purpose statement. And if he wanted, if you said, what's your core purpose statement? And he gave one sentence, he'd say, to share my journey through life with those people that I love. That's his core purpose statement, very simply. And yet he expands it. And as you'll notice in the subsequent paragraphs, he builds on it to continue to develop in his roles and who those roles are. And then, well, what's a servant leader? He will always walk alongside those he serves, just as others have walked with him on his journey. So he clarifies his purpose and why. Okay? And as we go through here, we're going to share other core purpose statements. Here's mine, very simply. I'm a person, so this is me as well. I help people become their greatest, leading themselves and others. Very simple. Includes me. And boy, I can just tell you, my first few were not this. However, they were where my consciousness was at the time, and they were where I was. I was very much in my head, and they were all reflective of that. And I just kept digging down and digging down and digging down. And now I'm so in alignment with this and in integrity with it. Okay. John talks a lot in Intelligent Leadership about inflection points. And as we go through our entire coaching journey, and one of the things you may choose to do is you may identify in the coaching plans you're putting together, you may create a little I or a little mark or a little something where I believe that this is going to be an inflection point for my coach, my coachee, is that these are going to be inflection points. And I want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to support them and for them to be in the best position for the inflection point, even if it's something they're recognizing that they would prefer not to have had as a part of their life, or once they're aware of it, they wish it hadn't been that way. That when they are having an inflection point, we put them in the best place to be healthy with it. So our questioning helps them step away from judgment and into permission. And we're using things that validate that it's reasonable, this is where it would be, and let's go forward from here. And these are all things that have informed you. So when we talk about it being an inflection point, it's going to be an inflection point in, throughout their journey. It's not one and done. It may be something that you have worked on over and over and over again, and now you're very confident with it. And if you've got a coaching client and they're already very confident with it, that's just wonderful. And it can hold up to everything. What you'll find is that as you encourage your coaching client, and I do it with every time we meet, how's your core purpose statement anchoring you? How is it working for you? It's a reminder for them in the beginning, because we're creating new muscle memory. We're creating new ways of thinking, new pathways. And that takes time and repetition. So we're helping them repeat it and see it. All right. I'm not going to go in detail through all the slides of this because some of these are so obvious for you in the maturity that you have in what coaching is. But here are some of the reasons. It's like, this is one. Let me just stop sharing and ask, what triggers might we be aware of signifying a review with our coaching client of their core purpose statement? Thinking back on your experience, what might be a time when you might ask someone to reflect and say, does your core purpose statement support you? Is there a time you can think of?
The 360.
360 would be a great point in time of that, especially in a 360. And thank you for that. Especially in the 360, if you're getting comments where, you know, it's not as complimentary to what you thought, that if you go back and say, you know, this is who you really are, what a gift we're getting that you don't show up that way and you're being made aware of this, so that through the lens of your core purpose statement, we can choose. And then with your MLEI, we know the best way for you to incorporate it. So that's an excellent time. So what you're going to find is through your lens of awareness, when those opportunities come up, they're gonna be like a bell to you. And you're going to, because this isn't just a one and done exercise of, okay, we checked the box. It's like the MLEI. You get through the MLA, you don't check the box that the MLEI is done. All of these are components that we continue to walk through. Okay. It's also what we're modeling is that when they are investing time in it, one of the things that they're going to recognize, and we're going to invite them into the consideration of conversation about, is they've never done anything that's a core purpose statement. And this is another place where you want the word core versus what they've done was a purpose statement. Is it, wow, I'm being asked, and you're questioning them. If you don't think that they're really digging down into their core and they're still up in their head, which we can tell, we're continuously helping them not settle. We're not having this be a head exercise for them. Then we're going to be helping them leverage that as they go through change to support them or to encourage them that now, based on this, you're going to seek out change in this particular way to support living through your core purpose statement, when before that wasn't a part of it. So it's giving context and a purpose to the core purpose for what we're doing, and helping them recognize it's not just the same kind of one and done exercise that they've done in the past. You can read all of these, and I want to go through some of these that I know that you'll already be able to take a look at the slides and grasp. So ask me any questions, but I do want to focus on this one because this is such a huge difference. The core purpose statement as a valuable resource is so that the purpose statement isn't just a mechanical process, but it touches them. And there are people who they've read theirs and it's brought tears to their eyes. They've shared it with their family members. They've talked with other friends. They've talked with people, and it's created an emotional experience. And it's not that our goal is for people to cry. It's our goal for people to recognize that when they really are connected with it, it's because they've gotten an emotional connection with it, and that's what we really want. And this is where their stepping into vulnerability is really valuable. And one of the things that we learn is where people have resistance points to vulnerability by doing something like a core purpose statement. If they've been held away, and it's reasonable, many people aren't taught to look at their core. They're taught to avoid that. That gets in the way. So as we begin this, the more awkward it is for them, the more we as coaches have the gift of learning how to work with them and invite them into how to gently explore that, which is another reason it's not a one and done exercise. If it's a really big step for them to go deep down into where their core is, and they're not used to doing that, that we gradually have them walk through it a little bit at a time and then keep exploring it. And at every inflection point, we ask them to go back. Hey, how's this working? Or do you want to do it? And when we get to that beautiful ILDP and we have them see this as something that's part of what creating their masterpiece, is that they're like, well, I wouldn't be able to do that if I can't be here. So it really helps with that. And I'm going to keep walking through those. Please stop me, raise your hand, or call out to me because I can't see every one of you on the screen. Just call out to me if there's if you've got something that you want me to follow up on. Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Hang on just a minute. There we go. Okay. When we set up the level of expectation with our coaching clients, that it's living and breathing, that it's not a one and done exercise, then it's easier for them to start becoming more curious about it. So and I love the last bullet point. It measures satisfaction, which is more important than success. It's what you feel good about. All right. I like to pause and ask people questions about what they think a core purpose statement is not. Because, and again, we've got this beautiful global audience with different lenses into purpose statements. What would some of you share that a core purpose statement is not?
Marketing flyer.
Oh, yeah, it's not a marketing point. Yes, beautiful.
It's not any strategic objective.
It's not a strategic objective. Excellent.
It's not for other people.
It is and it isn't. Who said it's not for other people?
My intention was to convey that you don't write it to please other people.
There you go. Yes, it's not that's perfect. It is not as compared to. It's not like you're trying to use these words because they look good. Yes, it's yours. And the reason, Christine, that I asked that question is there's another part of that there are people who will write, like I was saying, that one sentence that's the core purpose statement sentence that they will share, and yet they have other sentences underneath that they don't share.
Yes, I heard.
So your core purpose statement can be what you share externally as well as what complements and supports you personally and privately. Okay, because we want it to support all areas. But definitely, very good point, Christine, that people in a purpose statement exercise, often people are saying, well, how do you think this sounds? Well, how do you think this sounds? These are good words. What do you think? The sentence structure is good. And they're like, well, you need a verb there. You need all of these things. No. And then you're like, wow, theirs is so much better than mine. No, none of that. Yours is perfect. It's this beautiful work of art. So excellent. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to share about what it's not?
It's not static. It's like, I don't know if I'm using the correct word in English. It's just,
Yeah.
it has to have life, organic, evolving. So you just can't make a sentence and say, been there, done that.
Exactly. Been there, getting ready to keep going. Yes,
Yeah.
it's not a one and done. Absolutely. And when we invite people into that, and then we keep asking them, how is it supporting you? Or when they come to you with an issue and you begin with saying, well, let's take a look back at your core purpose statement as you're talking about solutions and as you're talking about what you're struggling with, you're talking about things, you can work with them and they might see insights into where they want to redefine their core purpose statement, or that it's strengthening them in something they know that there's going to be a challenge to do, and yet it's the right thing to do. So we're giving them opportunities to test it in real life as we go through the coaching journey with them based on things they're bringing to us. So absolutely. And in that process, Amelia, as you're saying, if it's not a one and done, if it's something you're continuing to evolve with, and you see that you're in going through this, you could refine your core purpose statement so it's more reflective, then it's a part of what you do. And it becomes very natural to do. So excellent. All right. We are at about 1:55. Would you like to take a 5-minute break, or would you like to keep going for a little bit longer since we just came back from lunch? This is completely up to you. Let me stop share so we can see everybody. Are we good to keep going, or do you want to go? Do you want to go about 15 more minutes? Or do you want to break?
I think we can continue, but I'm on
Yeah.
with the group.
Okay, let's continue. I've got a logical break coming up, so let's just keep going with this. And I'm accelerating this, but I don't believe that I'm excluding anything for you. There are places where I would have perhaps shared more. I feel like you probably already get the essence of some of the things that would have been in there, and I'm not going to have us lose anything. So we have BN's MLEI. Here's BN's core purpose statement. And as you can see, blended beautifully the personal part. So some core purpose statements are going to be more personal, some are going to be more professional, some are going to be a blend. And the introspection of this, that first sentence could be all that was shared publicly or not. BN was very comfortable sharing all of this. And this is just a different way. And you've got the document, so I'm not going to have you go through and read it. But what I'm modeling is, again, different kinds of core purpose statements. All right. In preparing to do your core purpose statement, I'm getting ready to prepare my core purpose statement. You know me well. What would you say it is? Who might you ask this question to, and why?
Sue, I'm not sure I understand your question.
I'm getting ready to, so Amelia, you and I know each other. We've been friends for 20 years. Amelia, I'm getting ready to write my core purpose statement. Let me just share the screen again here. I'm getting ready to create my core purpose statement. You know me well. What would you say it is? Why might I ask you?
Perhaps afraid to not portray myself how others can see me.
Okay. Why else? Why might I ask somebody? Who else might I ask what they think my core purpose statement is? And why might I ask someone else to give me insights?
Because
think
we
that
have
it's
blind
a-
spots.
Blind spots. Yes, because we've got blind spots. How many of us feel like we see each other really clearly and we give ourselves permission, and we don't have struggle with things like humility or speaking positively ourselves or anything like that? Yeah, all right. Yeah, blind spots. Yes. Roberto, did you say something?
Yeah, no, nothing to do. No, but my feeling is that sometimes it is not so easy to go deep in myself, and perhaps a little bit of, I don't know, fear or whatever. And but this force to put inside me and to see my core really, which is not easy, and perhaps it is easier to ask to other person. That's my.
It's absolutely perfect because, for example, yeah, Carolina.
Yes, I agree with Roberto. Maybe it's a little bit sometimes hard to ask for feedback, but that's what we ask our coaches to do with their people. So we have to do it too. And hey, do you think it's me, or maybe what you think yes or not, and do it with several persons. Maybe it's going to enrich our CPI.
Mm-hmm. Very good. We often don't see ourselves with, or give ourselves permission to see ourselves clearly. We choose to do certain kinds of things, but we may not necessarily believe on the inside that this is who we are. So when we reach out to people who we know, like, and trust, who will be honest with us because they know it's the best thing for us, we say, what do you think it is? Well, like we started the very beginning of our conversation. Do you know anyone who you imagine that you could tell them what what their core purpose statement is because of the way that they live their lives? And so when we are talking to people who we believe have our best interest at heart, and especially if we ask people who see us in, like, maybe in our home life, in our family, in our community, in different special interest areas that we have, and in our work, from people who we believe that would be very candid and honest with us, and we get those insights, they help, clean our lens, or they give us permission for something that we would love to be able to say, but we didn't think we should, because it would sound like we were bragging or we were arrogant, but our intent was pure. So it helps us get a clear lens on it. So it's not like you send out an email to, or put it on LinkedIn, like you don't put it out on LinkedIn and say, hey, you guys, what do you think my core purpose is? No, but there are a few people around you who have your best interest at heart. All right. So again, in the preparation of it, when we talk about that, right, we talk about, and a huge part of what we do in our coaching journey is learning how to be unquenchably curious, which, by the way, we were all born with, and we were born with unquenchable curiosity, and we were meant to be born with unquenchable curiosity because when we were born gazillions of years ago, if we didn't have unquenchable curiosity, we would have died. So it was to help us survive. So it's a natural part. It's trained a lot of it trained out of us. We don't want to embarrass somebody asking awkward questions. We're taught, don't do these things like that. Okay. So one of the greatest gifts, again, about core purpose statement is that we're giving ourselves permission to be unquenchably curious and start asking questions. Okay. And then vulnerability takes courage. And whatever word you use for that, I mean, stepping outside our comfort zone is what you can say, but it takes courage. It takes something to anchor you that. Okay. So then when we talk about getting prepared for it, we're preparing, and hang on just a moment, and then I'll get to the orange one in a minute, but we're not preparing them for our core purpose statement the way that we did it. We're asking them, what environment would be the best for you? How would you want to, when you've done something like this, and when you've really wanted to think through something or have space, what is it for you? And if they say, well, I don't know, I haven't really thought about it. We're inviting them to become curious about what that might look like and giving them permission to explore anything. Is it sitting in the backyard? Is it walking on the beach? Is it going into some place that's really crowded and has music so you can, have all that in the background? What does that look like? Because often people don't even think about that part of it. To be intentional about it. And I remember when I did my homework, my mom would have me put my pencils together, put my papers together, put everything together so that I was moving myself into the space of doing homework. So by the time I had done these things, which I didn't realize as a child, she taught me this later, and it made a lot of sense. But she was moving me into, now you're going to be doing your homework. Instead of saying, go do your homework, it was, do you have your pencils? Let's get your eraser. Where's your assignment? Where are your papers? Let's put them right here so that you can do this. And I'd have you like whatever it was to drink. So then I'm so you're helping them step into that. And sometimes they've never even thought of it. So you're helping them be able to be intentional about the environment they're in. And then what would you say are ways that you can help them assist with different kinds of obstacles they may have had? For example, if they had done a purpose statement exercise and they don't see the value in it because they never used it, or other points of resistance, what are some of the things you can do? What are some of the things you might try?
Well, I think that could be an idea to reach a commitment, you know, as I don't know. First of all, I think that this is an individual work, you know, and or he does it or he does not, but you know, nobody could do for him. That's my first idea. Second, perhaps like commitments with due dates, and you know, like in one side to think and to go deep, but in the other hand to have a commitment with a due dates and so on. I don't know, what do you think?
Very good. All right. What would anyone else say? What if you have your coaching client like, I've done those so many times. That's just a waste of time. I'm not doing that. We never used it. We do all this exercise and we take hours out of our day and we'd all be sitting in this room and doing it. And then we never did anything with it. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, I think what you said earlier about how resistance to vulnerability can make writing a CPS difficult. So to me, I might model or invite vulnerability, or you know, try and just get like what's under the surface of that resistance and see what might be there.
Excellent. And use your own reference reservoir. You as a reference reservoir for them to anchor on if they don't have one. And this is part of the reason, not the only reason, but this is part of the reason why we do our own core purpose statement. So we know what they're going through. We know where we've learned our resistance points. We're able to then model for them. Hey, when I was trying to do it, this is what I learned about myself. It surprised me. I mean, I'm trying to do this and all of a sudden this came up, or all of a sudden I started to cry because some things revealed themselves to me. So we're creating a reference reservoir for them if they don't have one. Yeah, exactly. Fabiola?
Yes, and it depends of the client, because I already have some information about their own style. So maybe it's just inviting to the playground and saying, you know, I've got going through that. And yeah, sometimes it looks like messy, and just how about starting it as something? It's not, the commitment is not to become it perfect in the first time. It's just, how about exploring that from the playground? With others might be inspiring them using what it's already shared here. Like, this is what John says, this is what and how is this changed in time. And the other thing that anchors me with the CPS is how I can reach that when in the process I might be, or I might find myself lost or not feeling that I am doing the task that I need to be done, or feeling strange with vulnerability. So knowing my clients, so preparing myself.
Yes.
With not just one, but a few ways to invite them, having my own repertoire.
Love it. I think that's just beautiful. And you brought up something that I'm not going to bring the visual back up for the pillars. And I'm going to use the American word of vulnerability, which is getting right inside, giving yourself permission to be you. When you think of the things that intelligent leadership does, because it's head and heart, and John's huge, head and heart and gut, head and heart and gut, not one. The vulnerability decision, the choice, all along the way. So when we're introducing them in the beginning right there with their own, and then they've begun to getting familiar with it before we go to the MLEI, which is again another place where there's an inflection point for doing that, for areas where you've got the opportunity to become more mature in how you use something. And then the vulnerability of being open to hearing what other people are saying about you when it's constructive or it's validating. And it's things that you were kind of might have even taken your breath away. And then instead of just doing the individual leadership development plan as a head exercise, it's no, I really want to get to the core of this. I really want to dig deep. I really want it to be everything it's meant to be. Because you've already been practicing that. You don't run a marathon by starting the day before it and trying to see how many miles you can run. You run a little bit, you do it. So we're doing it all along the way and getting them used to that and having them find their own resistance points and having them find their own strength. And then all through the entire process and then through LeaderWatch, all the things, it keeps deepening it and supporting it. So everything we do is in alignment with each other. Does all this, is this becoming clearer and clearer? What we're doing? So it just keeps getting better, just slow. All right. We're coming to a place where it's a good place for us to take a break. I'm going to just talk through this very, very quickly, and then we'll take a break. There's no one right way. I'm going to leave this slide up when we go on break. Have any of you ever used a mind map? Has anybody ever worked with a mind map? Okay, we can talk a little bit after break about what a mind map is, but I've had several of my coaching clients will use a mind map, which is you start with something and you put all the things that are related to it, and you kind of pull things together. So you could have the poetry that was discussed. You can have words. You can have put any format that you want, whether it's music, singing, having it be a song, an infographic, the word clouds, pictures, documents. There is no one right way. The only right way is for it to be an expression in the way that you choose to do it. And in the kind of environment, whether it's a really quiet environment or where it is but that puts you in the space for that, for what it is. So when we're talking about the designing of it and the creating of it, you're inviting your coaching client into the consideration of, when are you in your most creative space? Where are you in your most creative space? Is there something that complements that? Some people doodle and they're constantly doodling. Well, is there something that you create with your doodles? Okay. So it's helping them be in the best place to create their initial draft, which they're then going to share and have people understand it's a work in progress. However, and then we're going to take our break. When the core purpose was stated, when we first got started today, and Amelia shared hers, did you get the sense that you understood who she was more than just at a head level? That's what we want. We want to have all of those pieces, put ourselves and our coaching clients in the best place so that when we model what Amelia does and we share our core purpose statement, people go, wow, I really get that. I get the insights of that. I want to learn more about that person, and this is where it's going to likely take us. All right. Let's take a break. Would you prefer 5 or 10 minutes? 10? Good with 10? Okay, so it's 2:13, so 2:23 Eastern time. We're back. I'm going to pause the recording. Now we're recording again. What you're going to see from the slides that we've got, some of the slides that I don't walk through all the details of, I want you to still see that they're there because they're filled with a lot of what we've got in this slide deck is really valuable questions for you to consider. Not every one of them is going to be relevant, and you'll know that. What we wanted to have is for you to have as broad a range of the kinds of questions that you could ask based on who your coaching client is. So I'm going to kind of walk through these. This, however, in the style and the format of the statement, some of these are really, really helpful in the framework of it. So I'm going to invest some time in this one, which is we want them to be action-oriented. We want them to have specificity in the what or the who, or answering these kinds of questions. It's very important that we're using the I am, the present tense. The this is I am, not the, because the don't and the I want to or the I would like to or I will, those are striving. Those are not what you are. Those are in the future, and it's easy not to. And a big part of what this is that in the I am statement, we're associated with it. It's ours. We feel it. This is who we are. When we do the, well, I want to or I will, or not using the present tense, we're not associated with it. When we're looking at someone else's, our core purpose statement is who we are. It's associated with us. We're not writing it for anyone else, and we're not writing it through the lens of who else might be impressed with it. So it's very valuable for us to help our coaching clients who may not be familiar with this, is to use the I am statements and to practice with the I am in the present tense, because we've already started on the journey. We're not at the end, but we've started on the journey, and it anchors us. And if we keep pushing it into the future, well, when are you going to achieve it? So in the I am, we're continuously on the journey. And
Tired already.
one of the gifts,
Tired already. Maybe he's already tired.
oh, hang on a minute. Let me go ahead. Could everybody mute yourself? Pretty please. There we go. Thank you so much. Okay. Cute voice though. At any rate, when we talk about the variety of different ways that people can express their core purpose statement, many people have only thought that it could be in a sentence structure, and that's what they're used to seeing. So for however it is that you can invite your coaching client into making sure that when they're creating their core purpose statement, it's through whatever format works for them. You could show them, you can model what different ones have looked like. You can model what an infographic would look like, or what show yours if you've done it with music, if you've done it as was mentioned earlier, if it's a poem, or however it's been done. There's no one right way. The only way is what it is that they can feel confident. You certainly wouldn't want me to be doing a song or a piece of artwork, because not only would I not remember what I was drawing, because it really didn't look like what I wanted it to, nobody else would, I wouldn't be able to say this is what it is. So we want it to be authentic to who we are. And it also is reasonable that it's going to shift over time, not the core of the essence of who we are, but how we're going to be applying it in our world. Or maybe we may grow. I went on, let me just stop share for just a moment. I was so gifted in my life to begin a deeply spiritual journey. And I did a lot of exploration and went to monasteries and was working with masters and studying a lot. And it took me to a level of consciousness I wasn't previously aware of. And I learned things about myself I didn't know previously. So it shifted my consciousness of who I am and my connection with the world. And as we're working with our coaching clients, it's reasonable those things can happen to whatever kind. Not everybody's going to do that kind of a journey, but for whatever it is. So it's reasonable that we would say that we're going to continue to evolve and to grow, and we want to make sure that we continuously review as we're learning new things and giving ourselves permission that we're adjusting it. So in all of the language that we use and in all the things that we go through with them, have it be very permission oriented of as you're exploring it. This is why we continue to review it with them, especially as we're going through the coaching journey and it's different than what they've done before, that they're beginning to see things and question things. And sometimes they might say, something just feels kind of off, but I'm not really sure what it is. And we can help sit with them and help them sit with that discomfort of it to get more clarity with it. So it's very powerful. And when they know that it's permission oriented and that this is reasonable, then it's easier for them. These are things, we've pretty much talked through some of these. These are things you might share with your coaching clients. And these are some of the things, if anybody, as you read through these, if you've got questions about it, I'm glad to address it. I think that some of these are, yeah. Is there anything here you see that you've got a question about? Again, part of these are in here so that you can be sharing them with your coach and client if they're not familiar with it, what an empowering core purpose statement is. The other thing is we wouldn't necessarily want to share all of those with somebody because it might overwhelm them. Yes, Fabiola.
Yes, it's not a question about this, but I'm reflecting that maybe at first our client is not comfortable to explore this kind of statement about himself or herself.
That's reasonable.
But if we address and we bring that back any time that we are together or at any point that we think there might be a shift, maybe they will be engaging in progress too. It's not only that the purpose statement will develop itself, but maybe the way that they engage with that will be also evolving through the process.
You're at 100% exactly right. It's reasonable when they get started, especially if they haven't done it, that they're not going to be in all of these places. It's that we're going to continuously, this is why we talk about it with them, like every single coaching experience, every single time we're talking with them, everything that we're doing with them, their inflection point, inflection point, inflection point, inflection point. When you review with them, for example, when they get their MLEI results and there's some things that they don't necessarily understand or are in alignment with, and we talk about them with their core purpose statement with them, and we look at it and they're like, I do choose to become more mature in this area because this is expressing who I really am. Then when we get to the 360, and it's reasonable that some of the comments may be very complimentary and some may be great opportunities for growth, the way that we look at them, not through judgment, but through permission and curiosity, is when we're anchored in the fact that not everyone is going to agree that we're the greatest thing in the world and that we have opportunities to improve. So it helps put us, so you're exactly right, that the more we walk them through it, because that's what continues. I use this example, and this is a United States-based example. I don't know what word this is, but I see that several of you were wearing glasses. So I'm going to use the word phoropter. There's a machine that we have in the United States called a phoropter. Is this better or is this? You put your eyes in there, they adjust this, click, 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 click. Is this better or is this blurry? Has everybody who's got glasses used this machine? Okay, so the first time they do it, when you put your eyes in there and they go, is this better? Well, no. Well, too bad. No, you just keep going and going and going and going, and it takes some time, right? Okay, so we're like helping them be phoropters. Is this better or is this? Is this better or is this? It's reasonable. It wouldn't be the first time. So to your point, that's exactly why we're doing what we're doing. It's exactly why we're reinforcing it. And because like more than 90% of our thoughts and beliefs and our actions are unconscious to us by the time we're the age we are now, in order for us to change, we need to undo what doesn't support us anymore and replace it with what does. And it's reasonable over time. I'll give a very quick example of this. Let me, okay. The example I use that's made sense to most people, and it may not be completely globally applicable, but when I was very young and our little personalities are forming before the age of reason and discernment, okay, we come to an intersection on a street or a sidewalk, and my parents holding my hand or other people of authority would say, look both ways before you cross the street. So they're holding my hand. We look both ways before we cross the street. Then we cross the street. Did anyone have anybody tell you to look both ways before you cross the street when you were a child? Okay. Did anybody have somebody tell you that one time? Or did they tell you over and over and over and over? And they told you that because they wanted you to do it automatically, because they love you and they wanted to keep you safe. So we repeat it over and over and over again. Okay, today, when you come to an intersection, how many of you look both ways before you cross the street? Yeah, okay. Now, thank goodness I learned it as a child, because now if I didn't, somebody'd run over me because people have so many other distractions. So before the age of discernment, something was taught to us over and over and over and over and over again. We have this unconscious belief and we have this pattern of behavior that serve us. So we do that. Okay, just like that, we also have some that were planted there that may not be as healthy for us, but we haven't replaced them because they didn't come to our level of awareness. One of the ones that doesn't serve many of us anymore is, again, we learned this before the age of discernment, health and safety, trying to keep us safe because they love us. Don't talk to strangers. Did anybody's parents or loved ones tell them don't talk to strangers? Okay, because they wanted to keep you safe, because you didn't know the difference between a good guy and a bad guy. So down in there is don't talk to strangers. Well, if you haven't raised that to your level of awareness and replaced it with something else, when you're, for example, in sales and you're supposed to call strangers all day long, people are sometimes resistant to that. So it's raising to your level of awareness. Now, unlike an insurance policy, how many of you have an insurance policy, car policy or anything like that? You usually get a notice before your policy is going to renew that says, hey, has anything changed? We want to make sure your policy still supports you. Let's update it. We don't have that for our personalities. So we go along and people will have this personality that's not really supporting them, and you raise it to their level of awareness and they go, well, that's just the way I am. What they don't realize is it could be different. So we're giving people the gift of recognizing that that's just the way I am. It doesn't have to be that way. And yet to replace that, we have to give it something. We have to raise it to their level of awareness, have them choose what it is they are going to replace it with, and then reinforce it until it becomes their new pattern of behavior and belief. That's what we're doing with them. That's the great gift of what it is. Does this make sense? And the more often that we revalidate it for them, yeah. And then they're going to get that. And then they're going to, it's like, it's so awesome. So this is why we're doing what we're doing. And it is pretty exciting. And we need to have these unconscious patterns of belief and behavior because we'd never get out of the house otherwise. But as you become aware of it and you think of like, how do you naturally reach for a fork? Somebody taught you how to naturally reach for a fork or a toothbrush. So you don't even think about it. How you cut your food. Now that I'm raising this to your level of awareness, you're going to see so many places in your life where you do that. However, you're a reference reservoir for other people. Now you can be sharing these things with them to help them step into why you do this. Okay? So hopefully that is helpful for you. So again, with all of these kinds of questions, and these are not things that you need to go through, that we need to go through. All of these are things that are there for you to be picking and choosing. So I'm going to give you some homework to be doing, and you can get back to me and we can go through core purpose statement. But I'd like you to be thinking about what questions you would suggest, because this is, again, we're a global audience here. And you're going to have a variety of different clients with different levels of consciousness, with different levels of leadership. Okay? I want you to do the I am of this. What questions should I ask myself? What questions do I ask myself in order to assist me in completing my core purpose statement? I'm going to go back through this whole presentation and I'm going to look at all these different questions. What are the questions that help me? So then I can be modeling that for my coaching clients. And how is this helping me in the reflection of the core purpose statement I'm creating? So my homework for every one of you is to go through what the presentation is and what we've done to be creating your own core purpose statements. And then whether you want to review it with me and or other members of this group, and you can become a cohort, is to review it with each other so that you are creating your core purpose statement where you are today. Okay. Here are a variety of different kinds of questions. Now there are pages of questions here, and we're not going to go through all of them. I want you to also come up with the questions that, based on who you are and your culture and where you are, what questions would you add? So these are just representative. This is not the list. You don't just list it from 1 to 50 and start asking all the questions. You have this portfolio of questions to ask, and that as you ask your coaching client, you're going to find the questions that will resonate with them. I've had some people who kind of group them into different areas of insight. So whatever works for you, whatever questions kick something off, here's the number one thing, and I'm actually going to ask you for that. There's not an easy way to ask this to get the question, to get the answer I'm looking for, but I get lots of great answers from it. What kind of question would you never ask in somebody working with a core purpose statement?
Do you like working here?
That would be a great, because that's not going to get to their core purpose. That's a good one.
What do you want to do with your life?
That's probably a pretty, it might be a good place to start, but it wouldn't be the last question. You don't want to ask a yes or no question. Okay. You don't want to ask a judgment-based question. What you can learn, okay, what we know is that some people are toward people and some people are away people. And you want to ask questions to learn whether they're a toward or an away person. Does anybody understand what that is, to where they want to explain it to the rest of us? Who would like to share what that means? I saw a head nodding, which means you can answer it.
I may be wrong, possibly, but it's people who are more open to connecting with others and people who are much more introverted in not only in the way they relate with others, but they're more at the corner of a party rather than in the middle of the scene.
That's excellent. Yes. Who would like to compliment that? You're going to have people who are very gregarious and outgoing. You're going to have people, they're going to have different kinds of purpose statements because they're also naturally wired differently. You've got people who, when they're in a meeting, they're not going to speak up and raise their hand immediately, but boy, you're going to want to call on them because they've been thinking deeply and they've got a great, they don't feel like they have to share the answer with you, but they've got it. So you want to learn how to draw them out as well. Absolutely. Fabiola, you had something you wanted to share? Nope. Okay. Some people are all of you familiar with like coaches of a sporting team, and they're sometimes they will, that was awesome, you guys did a great job, and then to another person they'll say, that's really all you've got? I mean, I know you got more in you. You can only do 20 of those. You got to be. So some people move away from something. They're naturally wired to want to move away from something, and other people are naturally wired to want to move towards something. And we ask questions to learn their motivation that they're toward. It's like the carrot and the stick. Okay. We want their core purpose statement to be in the language that they're moving toward being the best they can be, or they're moving away from self-limiting. They're moving away from things and things like that. So you'll help them language in their own authentic way if they naturally move toward things or naturally move away from things. Okay. And in your life, Claudia?
I'm not sure I got what the reference you just made. Could you give us an example?
Yes. There are some people who will, let me get an analogy that might be more global. There are some people who want to get all A's. They're really excited about going toward getting all A's. And there's some people who just, they don't want to get a D. They're moving away from the pain of what failure would be. Some people move toward success. Some people move away from failure.
Okay.
Does that make more sense?
Yeah, I was thinking of the cheerleader when you spoke about the coach, I was thinking about Ted Lasso and says, okay, this is the best thing that's ever happened, in the way that you give feedback to people. But okay, I understand now that you're
yeah. And it is like that, is that when you're like, for example, one example of it is how you're giving feedback.
Right.
And I know for me, my motivation is I don't want to let anybody down. So I choose to move toward the positive. I'm a very positive oriented person. I choose, if your communication with me, if you wanted my purpose statement to be about going the negative part of it, that's not how that wouldn't motivate me. So people are motivated differently and they're wired differently. And so we want to help them step into permission to have their purpose statement reflect the way they naturally are. Is that clear? You will learn that in the way that they answer questions, by the way. When you've already seen this. This has been modeled for you when people talk about what they want or what they don't want. Well, I certainly don't want this anymore, and I really want that. So they help teach you what that looks like. Yeah, excellent questions. All right. So when you see these kinds of questions, it is there are a variety of different questions. What are my greatest strengths? How do I want to be remembered? What are my happiest moments? And all of these are things that are, for every question they answer, it gives you other questions you can be asking them. So throw a variety of questions in and see where they resonate. We don't want them to have to answer 50 questions. So give them a few and then have them reflect on it and maybe give them some more, right? This is something where some people are uncomfortable with this, and this would not be anything that they would do. And then some people would gravitate toward this being where they start. It's that, all right, what's your head telling you? Or, How do you feel about this? What's your gut instinct telling you this? Now, these are also oriented toward the Enneagram. But some people would go, I got no idea what you're talking about. So as you're looking at how evolved and how aware of certain things your coaching client is, they may never be here, and that's okay. They don't have to be here. If they are, there's ways to do that, Fabiola.
Yes, a way to make it easy with people that are not used to use their own body is to draw a person and to put some things
Oh,
out. What are you from your thinking? What are some statements from your sensing, and that helps a lot. So when you have a third party in this relationship, that helps a lot.
what a great suggestion. I've not ever tried that. That's just brilliant.
Thank you.
Gosh, I wish I hadn't turned reactions off. If my reactions were on, I'd be going like, that's wonderful. Thank you,
Sure.
thank you, thank you. Oh, great sharing. That's wonderful. All right. And then again, questions to ask themselves when they create their core purpose statement, when they've got one, like, okay, is this really lightening it up for you? Do you think that you've settled for a head exercise, or does this move you? Can you really use it? And in the beginning, for many people, their first cut at a core purpose statement is still going to be more of a head-oriented purpose statement if it's not something that they're familiar with. And so we're like, this is a great start. Let's use this for a while. And by the way, how do you when we're going through the coaching pieces with them and we ask them, how does your core purpose statement make you feel when you're thinking about this? So when you're going through these questions with them, not every question, again, is it audacious? There are places where you would not ask that. So, it's not everybody would have that. But these are we want them to be getting outside their comfort zone and not settling for something, and do you really feel connected with it? And if it's a head exercise, they're like, yeah, it's fine, whatever. No, we want it to really inspire and motivate them. So again, as you see, there are a lot of different kinds of questions. So then, and this part is very helpful for us to understand, is that in the timing of the core purpose statement, the reason that we begin with it is that we want them to recognize all the way through that their leadership growth and development comes from inside. Doesn't come from their head. Their head supports their inner core. And we want them to recognize that we're going to go into really deep discovery. And then when you show them the wheel and they see what that means, and we're inviting them into there, then often for the first time, we're helping step into that. I have some coaching clients that have been of different nationalities, and this is really so counterintuitive to them because it's what they learned all their lives not to do. And that's reasonable. So like, in the Likert scale from the -5 to the 0 to the +5, they're way down here because what they thought was the right thing was not that. So all I'm trying to do is to open the spigot for them to consider it. So in the very beginning, it's just consider it. And then periodically adding is like, what do you think if you had something with them? So you'll know that culturally where you're at. You'll know that when you're working with your coaching client. This is why we talk about it not being a one and done, and that we start so much in the beginning and we carry it through, because there's so many other dynamics for it not to be a head exercise, but to really be a core exercise. And they'll get the aha. They get it at different inflection points, but they will get it. And what I'm going to ask you to be considering on the coaching journey, see where it's got, based on the MLEI and the STLI, what are questions you would ask? Be thinking. Now, by the way, you've also, in the level 2, we've also got the 360 results, so you can actually be looking at those, but we're going to be teaching through there, and we're going to be asking you about the core purpose statement and the MLEI as we go through there. And that when we're going through there are times to be connecting with their core purpose statement, either to support them when they're hearing something that is out of alignment with who they thought they were, or that's validating who they know they want to continue to become more of. Okay. Here again are a couple of examples. I also encourage people to go out and Google core purpose statements, and you'll hear some people and you'll know, well, that's just a purpose statement. That somebody, they had public relations write that. And it's like, seriously? One of my very favorites is Sir Richard Branson. Now, I've never met him. I actually saw him. I was about 3 feet from him and I saw him. It's like, I would love to go up to that man and say hi and tell him what a great, and then I thought, he's having a good time. Leave him alone. Like, I don't need to, in my life, I don't need to do that. But every time I've ever seen him or heard him speak or anything, to have fun in my journey through life and learn from my mistakes. When the time I saw him and I was so close to him, he was smiling. The whole energy around him was just positive. And he was asking people and he was just being very, and when he's done interviews, when I've seen things, that's just like, I believe that that's who he is. Because he's just been consistently that way. And Oprah Winfrey, she's a teacher. So, we have different people, and look at who people in different areas where you might know them or have heard of who they are. So come up with those and recognize when someone's purpose statement is in alignment, or it's just as important for you to see people who have a purpose statement that's like, oh, seriously? Now, Larry's and Sergey's, I use theirs. Theirs is a corporate-oriented core purpose statement based on what they built a business to do because of what they felt called to do. This is why they created it, to organize the world's information. An interesting one you may choose to go through is Google Bill Gates' purpose statements over the years, and you'll see several of them, and you'll see how his evolution into consciousness has shifted the purpose statements that he creates and where he is now. And that's reasonable. All right, so when we talk about creating the purpose statement, and we talk about sharing it, from a professional, this is where there could tend to be the most resistance of some people don't want to share their purpose statement. What we invite you into the consideration of, and the reason that we do it, it's not a requirement. And the Santander people, when you're working with your coaching clients, it's not a requirement for them to ever share their purpose statement. What we're inviting them into is getting clarity by creating theirs, and if they choose to share it, to be sharing it. Okay, so this is not a box that they have to check in order to have anything to be able to get through the coaching program or anything. But like we said, there can be the statement that you share with the world, and then the other ones that support and anchor you. Okay, so these are the things that you will walk through with your coaching clients, and I'm going to have you be sure that you're going to walk through it with yourself first. So Anna had to leave. Oh, family birthday dinner. Wonderful. All right. Come back into here. All right. So when we're seeing these, this is what I want you to be doing, is I want you to be doing this for yourself. Who do you want to share your core purpose statement with? So turn this over to the I am, who do I want to share my core purpose statement with? Why? What format do I want to share my core? Because again, you're going to be modeling this for others. A lot of people have done this, and where they model it with is with their other family members. They create it for themselves, and they invite the rest of their family members into doing it, or some of their family members in it. So what format do I want to share it in? When do I plan to share it, and why? And where am I going to put it? Am I going to put it on my business card? Am I going to put it on a little sign? Am I going to have it as my screensaver? Am I going to have it in my heart and it's not written anywhere? What am I going to do? So these are things for you to go through for yourself, and then practice. And again, practice it with a cohort, and also practice it with like family. It's a great, I talk to so many people who have done it with their family, and it's wonderful because, and one of the things is that when they've asked that question, I'm getting ready to do my core purpose statement. What do you think mine is? And you ask your family members. Well, then they're going, well, I want to know, what would mine do? How would I do mine? So often they're they're drawing you in. Okay. So when we are communicating it, okay, and again, now this gets back to the point that all of you have brought up about cultural pieces and transparency and vulnerability. And we have coaches in different parts of the world, and their coaching clients are, at least in the beginning, not going to share it publicly. It's just not culturally what they do. What we want to invite the journey to be able to reach at some point in time is that they feel confident sharing it, either with their closest coworkers and leaders or in other areas. But again, this is an invitation-oriented kind of a concept, and culturally it will be different. Okay. And business to business, it will be different. There are some businesses that are very, very open to it, and some really not so much. Okay. You are, like I talk about like you're holding them in your hands. This is whatever word you want to put. This is a very vulnerable time for them. It's often a place they haven't really stepped into or had permission to, and a lot of emotions can come up. So when we're working with them, it is very gradual. It's a dance. It's kind of stepping forward and stepping back based on where they are. Joelle, okay. Yes, we did go through the MLEI, Joelle, and we have the recording of the MLEI, as well as this core purpose statement. We'll have the recording of that as well for you. We went through the MLEI first, and we switched the order of it, and I apologize that we didn't get that communicated to you. Rich had a family funeral, and we switched the MLEI so it could be in the beginning, so he could share some of the things in the spreadsheet. So we'll make sure you get the recording of it.
Thank you so much, Sue.
You're very welcome. Well, we're glad you're here. Does anyone have questions about communicating the core purpose statement, how you might support your coaching client in the communication of it or in the conversation around it?
I have a question, but actually regarding the journey of our client CPS,
Yes.
it's like there's not set time or amount of time where you can just stop and say, let's review, shall we review? I think it's all evolving in its own natural way, right? So it may be once or twice or 3 times during a year, 24 sessions or whatever. And I feel, first of all, if that is your experience, and second, if there have been cases where this has not been reviewed, simply because either they were not ready, they didn't want to go there, or simply because they were very happy and satisfied with what they've done.
Love the question. There are lots of components to the answer of the question. Let me go ahead and stop share. Because we talk about the core purpose statement being an anchor for every single thing they do in intelligent leadership, every time you have a conversation with your coaching client, you can invite a component of your conversation in the beginning to say, or when they're talking about something they're working on, let's run that through your core purpose statement. Do you feel your core purpose statement still supports you? So it's not something that you do in the first session and then you come back 3 months later and do it. You actually kind of include it in what you're doing very, very frequently, especially as they're creating it and they're validating whether this is the right thing, because there's a lot of the foropter, is this better or is this? And as we continue to go along the journey and they're being drawn into more and more who they are and the understanding of who they are, then the understanding of how they're perceived, and then choosing what it is that based on what they're being measured on and held accountable for, choosing what it is they're going to put in their plan. All of those, running them through that core purpose statement, help them know that they're in alignment with it, they've got some work to do with it, or that they're still not confident getting to their core. So it's something that for every single one of you is going to be different. This is why we talk about it, though, not being a one and done. I literally bring it up every time I have a coaching session, every single time. And if they're thrilled with it, it's like celebrating it. But I never want it to be something that we've put in a box. Because especially if it's something they've never created before, I want to make sure that for everything that comes up, they have a chance to run it through the filter of their core purpose statement, to validate it, to strengthen it, to refine it. Is that helpful? Okay, very good. Love the fingers. Joelle.
I believe this is part of the question that Claudia just had brought. A very practical one. When do we as coaches judge that this exercise, which is a quite deep one, has been sufficient for us to proceed with the process? Because I've seen that you put a lot of emphasis on the CPS for this process to continue. But did you get my question, Sue?
I believe I did. I'm going to reframe what I think I understood and then give some insights to it. It's, we talk a lot about the magnitude of the core purpose statement process overall. And when do we determine that you know, okay, they've done their process and we can be moving on? What I do is, instead of looking at it as like a thing that's right here that we do all of this with, it's that we do it a little bit all along the way. Is that we invite them into it, and wherever they are with it, we're inviting them into it and we're helping them with it. And then it may sit for a little while and we check back in with them, but they're like, okay, this is where I'm at right now. Okay. And then we continuously throughout the process check in with them, or have them express what they're doing through the lens of their core purpose statement. So in the application of what they're doing, for example, when we get into that coaching process and we're going to do these 3 things over the next 6 months, and you're going to say, how is your core purpose statement going to inform you? So we're always having them check back into, does it support you? Are you comfortable with it? Are there areas where you're seeing that you're not in alignment with it yet? How do we get into that? And then when you're asking them to be actually making changes that we've identified in their leadership development plan, how is the core purpose statement supporting you? Or are there areas where we need to continue to work? So it becomes something where we check in continuously. And they're either like, I'm good with that, or they've got something that they work on refining it. And we don't know when that's going to come up. There may be something. I literally talked with a client yesterday where they discovered all kinds of unusual things. The CEO, the CFO, and the COO retired. Well, one was fired and the other 2 quit on the same day. Now, that's not something that most organizations think about. Is, okay, that's a major change. So everybody else is now figuring out what to do. So if the health and vibrancy of your core purpose statement is there, as you're stepping into places that you haven't thought about needing to do, you've got some anchoring with that. But otherwise, on a day in and day out basis, it's just supporting you where you're at. So sometimes it's when you've got a major inflection point and it's going to be an anchor for you. And sometimes it's going to keep supporting you, staying afloat day in and day out. Is that helpful? Is that what you were looking for?
Great, Sue. Quite helpful. I got it.
Thank you, Joel. Roberto.
Yeah, I have a question. We will have 24 sessions, as I know. And my question is there some kind of time frame? I know and I understand that it's a dynamic process, but as in your experience, is there any time frame in which we will, we will need to have, you know, the CPS, as I said, just go into the objective? What do you think about that?
I'm going to give you an answer you may not prefer. However, I will give you a response. Theoretically, where we would like for them to have a core purpose statement they're confident sharing, which is not necessarily their final one, is that when they are in the coaching process and they've gone through in their individual leadership development plan, and they have determined based on everything in the plan, these are the things they're going to be working on for the next 3 months. When we've got that, they're sharing that. They're sharing it with their stakeholders. They're sharing it with the leaders. That's the time, the second time when the core purpose statement normally is going to be coming out. The first time they're going to be invited to give it as you do the core purpose statement exercise. You're going to invite them. Do you feel comfortable sharing this with other people for them to review it with you? Some people say, no, I don't. Some people say, yes, I do. So that's one that's more optional. We prefer that when they get ready with their leadership development plan, that they feel comfortable sharing at least that first statement of what their core purpose statement is.
Okay.
Is that
Thank you.
helpful?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
And again, because it's permission-based, we can't require anybody to do it. So we'd like for them to, but all right, very good. And what I've learned is that people really it's like they feel really good about it when they've got it, because they've really done it. They want to share it. They really want people to see, because they're proud of it. They feel good about it. So the apprehension you have of doing a purpose statement that you're through the lens of what your mind is, which is why we don't just call it a purpose statement, is that, well, you do it, it sounds good, and you don't do anything with it, is that because you've gone through this really introspective exercise and you've really gotten to the core of who you are. It's like, like we want to be like Amelia. Amelia, does anybody want to share theirs? Yeah, I'll share mine. Amelia, right up there. She shares her core purpose statement. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. Touches our soul. So yes. All right. Great questions. All right. I believe that we're at, let me just look at one thing, because I think we may be almost, hang on. Let me just look at one thing really quickly. Oh yeah. Okay. This is very exciting. Okay. We're almost done with these slides, and then I'm going to invite you into something else. Joelle, did you have something else you'd like to ask?
No, just a comment, Sue. I had a thought that, as a matter of fact, it's a strong belief that you will only commit on things that you really feel that you can share with someone else. As you said, whenever we finish our core purpose statement, we feel a good energy about that. We feel proud about that. So we want to share that.
Yes.
It is a way to be committed to your core purpose statement. What do you think about that?
Yes, absolutely. And here's what some people will do. They'll give it a trial run. They will practice it. They will share it with their closest, their family members, and then their closest coworkers. They'll share it with a few people who they feel like would really say, yeah, this is great, or, I think you've got more in you. So they want to, they're ready to. Absolutely. Now, what we also recognize is culturally, some people and individually, some people prefer to keep things more private. It's just really not something they want to share, even though they've got it and it's brilliant. We know that, and you've met people like that. We all know that. There are some people who are going to be like, no, I'm not sharing that. However, if they've done the exercise, they're going to be modeling it. So even if they're not sharing it, they're modeling it. And we're still running them through it with the things that we do and helping them step into that being their new unconscious pattern. We just, to your point, yeah, it'd be great because they've done such a great job and it is wonderful. So we respect their choices, but we're really excited when they share. All right. So we're, this is such a great thing. How will your interactions with others change if they're coming from your core purpose? So before I go to any other slide, what does anybody think? Claudia?
I love the question. It's something that I've been reflecting a lot in action lately, which is the coherence behind the words that we say guide us. For example, being kind to everybody, being generous. and making it happen, really, really becoming that.
Yes.
So yeah, it is wonderful, and it's a purpose in my life, and I hit myself every time with a wall when I don't do it and I'm not coherent. But hey, I'm human, so I guess that's part of the process as well.
Yes, excellent. So think about two things. One, think about when you do your exercise for your core purpose statement, how do I choose to have the outcome of my core purpose statement change my interactions with others? What is my vision of how my interactions with others will change when I'm when I'm modeling my core purpose? So do it for yourself. And then when you're talking with your coaching clients, ask them this question: how will your now frame it the way that you choose to, the essence of what it is, but it could be stepping them into that. Now that you've got this beautiful core purpose statement, how do you see it playing out in the interactions you have with other people? What does it look like for you? And invite them into that, because what they've done is they've created this for a reason. And now what do they want them to have it look like for them? Yes, Amelia?
Yeah, one of the things, it's tough to write a core purpose statement because it kind of keeps you abreast of how honest you are with yourself. So that what I work with, even myself and with other coaches, with other coachees is, once you write it, you have to be true to it. So it keeps you honest in a sense of if what you say and what you're doing is going in the same direction, you will know, because how much does it align with your core purpose statement? So to me, it keeps myself honest, and I can tell when I'm on another lane I shouldn't be, then it brings me back to who am I. So just wanted to share that.
No, that's so powerful. And because you're asking them, whenever you're having your coaching experiences, you're asking them to reflect on it. So you're raising it to their level of awareness and then saying, are you, sometimes we'll use the word, are you in integrity with it? Or are you being honest with yourself or things? But when we raise the priority of it, which is why I want them to have it in front of them and be doing it as you're making this decision. And when you're coaching them through it, you can say, how does this decision align with your core purpose? Do you feel completely in alignment with that in the way that you're languaging it and what you're doing? And because the core purpose statement, you want it to take on a life. You don't want it to be a statement that goes in a drawer. So part of our responsibility as the coaches is to have them be implementing it in their lives and then validating it. To your point, a perfect point, Amelia, is that, check in with yourself. And is it, and am I languaging what I'm doing through the right lens with that? So excellent. Thank you. Fabiola.
Using your example of when we don't have, or we are developing our discernment, and we have our parents saying, look both ways to cross the road. It's like, for me, the core purpose statement is being an adult and designing those spaces of growth, and also designing that space of being careful with myself and with others, to know to hold to when I want to cross some road. But
that's brilliant.
with conscience.
I love that. Yes.
Becoming an adult and knowing this is part of my own development is my desire to. Sometimes it might, when Emilia says it's difficult, yes, it's difficult, and it might be very helpful to have that as part of our own development.
Sure.
So, but with intention. So I see this adult conscious intention to design that context that I will keep growing.
Love that. I love that. The way I talk about it, I talk about several different things that we do through the lens of them being your guideposts and your guardrails. Guideposts light your way. Guardrails keep you from getting off of your path. Does your core purpose statement light your path? Does it give you the guardrails that indicate that you're getting off of your path and keep you from getting off of your path? It's better to bump into a guardrail than fall off a cliff. Okay. So I talk about them being my guideposts and my guardrails. I do that with several other things, but yeah, to your point, that's exactly what it is that to support you with that. I love this. All right. So just a couple more, and then we've got several different choices of it. We've already talked through these. I want you to go back through those because you're going to do your own example of it. You're going to do it and you're going to share it with others. I hope that you'll create cohorts in doing that. All right. And then this one, kind of pretty much summing it up, is that this is going to be unique and different for everyone, for where they put it, how they share it, if they read it in the morning as a mantra, if they have it on their screensaver, if they've got it. Well, there are people who put it on their desk. There are people who have it part of their course, their signature, their email signature. It's very personal. Some people may not share it. So everybody's going to be different. People will bring it up in conversation and test it out with other people. So all of these things, and I highly encourage you to add, because again, culturally, there are going to be different things in different places that you might do it or that are recognized. We had somebody one time says, I'm gonna put mine on a billboard. So, it's like, okay, if that's what calls you, that's just fine. All right. One last thing. Now, would you prefer to take a break and then we'll talk about sabotage as our last major component of this, or do you want to keep going? How is everybody? Because we're almost done and then we'll be done. I'm going to do a stop share and you can see if we want to keep going. Are we good to keep going for a little bit longer? Because we're just about there. Okay. Excellent. All right. How many of you have ever done anything that sabotaged yourself? Yeah. And we're like, why am I sabotaging myself? I love myself. Well, we all have things that cause that, right? It's reasonable. It's a part of who we are. Now, big part of the coaching journey is we're working to help people raise things to their level of awareness so that we can replace that with something that supports us. But sabotage is a part of it. And we can all coach each other on eliminating sabotage, but it's a natural part of things. It comes from a healthy intention, but it's a misapplication of something. So it's not really supporting us. Well, in doing the core purpose statement, it's reasonable. This is going to be a part of it. So we're gonna share a little bit about sabotage. Okay. Ways that they could be sabotaging, and what is our role in this? Okay, so we'll have some people who have, oh yeah, I did a purpose statement before, and they, it was a head exercise. It was never used. It was all those other things, and they're not really committed to it, or they really want to get going on something else. They don't want to really, I got these big things I'm working on. I don't want to do a core purpose statement. So they're not doing the steps of what it is, all right? And we've all asked coaching clients to do something and they didn't want to do it. And when they don't want to do it, what do? They don't do it. They come up it's so brilliant. If we could come up with as many brilliant reasons to do things as we can find brilliant reasons not to do things, it's a beautiful thing. All right. So when this is the external representation of not wholeheartedly committing to it, what we want to be able to do is to get to the reason why. And we want to kind of help support them to see if it's, what's causing it. So just like everything else, there's context. This is an end point where there's context. And we want to see if we can figure out, because if they're going to have resistance here, guess what? They're going to have resistance in other places. And oftentimes, more times than not, okay, sabotage is unconscious. Sabotage came from something that was conscious and it's been repeated, and they sabotage and they don't know why. So as coaches, when we see that, there's no judgment of it. It's that we want to help explore so we can replace it with something that's healthier. And so be recognizing it, no judgment of it. And I'll ask in just a moment ideas that some of you have gone through when someone has been sabotaging something. All right. Make the decisions that bring your life things that will help you fulfill your purpose. There will be times when you love your footing and take the wrong step. That's okay. Each step will teach you something and lead you. Listen and pay attention to each one. Okay. This is big. For some leaders, their fear may sabotage them living from their core purpose statement. They don't have confidence enough. Okay. When we look at everything we're doing in intelligent leadership, because we're modeling them and we're supporting them, we're learning and we're listening and we're understanding why something is holding them back from living from it. So the more frequently we run the things they do through their core purpose statement, the more we're able to raise to our level of awareness and theirs, their points of resistance, and help coach them through what to replace that with that's healthy, and then give them examples of how to do that. Okay. And again, all of these, there's a reason for all of these. There's you know, and then another one is a big one, is that they need to, you know, they need to feel right. They need to feel safe. Like, I don't want to explore inside there. This is why this is not a one and done exercise. This is why it's permission oriented, that we do a little bit at a time. Okay. So thinking of this and thinking from your own experiences and your own culture, when you've worked with coaching clients who've had resistance, what are some of the things you've done to help invite them into the consideration of exploring something they're resistant to? And you wouldn't be where you are if you hadn't had a lot of that already. All right, Emilia.
I think we all learn from our own experiences first, and then if it works for us, then we try for others. So one of the things I tell my clients and through my conference is that the future version of ourselves will always try to sabotage the present version of ourselves.
Wow.
So, and I give examples, like I've lost 90 pounds in the last 5 years. Why didn't I lose any weight? Because I always say, well, I'm going to start a diet on Monday, and it comes Monday, oh, you can leave it for tomorrow. Oh, you can leave it for, so you don't have a self-commitment of doing something that you say you are. So I completed my doctorate when I was 54, just because I always thought that other students will do better than I do. I'm too old for that, et cetera, et cetera. So it's natural for us to feel compelled to just procrastinate something that you think it's not essential for yourself, because we're in a preservation mode continuously. So I said, don't worry, just when that happens, just remember, your future version will always try to sabotage and always overestimate until you get to the present. So that seems to help them feel better about it's natural. So let's not continue doing that. And let's start something that you feel good about yourself. So
what I love about what you said, there are multiple things I love about what you said, but what you also did say is another way for them to feel comfortable in the coaching experience, because they're not alone. Because when they've got an insecurity, or they've got something like that, or they're not really sure what to do, or they don't know the motivation behind it yet, you give them, and again, I mean, it's like holding a baby. You give them a safe space for that, which in the beginning they may not believe, or they may not trust. But the more we invite them back into it through permission and a little bit at a time and gentle, which is why these things are a journey and not a one and done, it's, to your point, it's going to give them more of the confidence, and you're modeling it for them, and they're seeing that it can be done. And then you're showing them the places and the ways to do a little bit at a time. I've literally had people, this has not been my experience, but I had somebody shared me this, and I thought it was beautiful, is what they start with every one of their, wasn't somebody specific. They said, I have them start their core purpose statement with one word. If your core purpose statement was one word, what would it be? And then they sit with that. And then from that, and from really being connected with one word, it's kind of like the seed that you plant, and it begins to come out. I love the concept of that. And I believe that I will try that. I haven't tried it with any of my coaching clients yet, but Fabiola, the one word. And to your point, Amelia, if they've got that where you're modeling it for them, and you're helping them step it through, that's beautiful. Does anyone else have something they'd like to share with that?
Yeah, maybe exploring from which emotionality comes that. Maybe it's from frustration or anger or disappointment or whatever. So from there, normalizing that it's part of the journey, sometimes not feeling blah, blah, in the good mood too, but how about starting something that might be new, but first exploring the emotional background of that.
Yes. Explore the emotional background and then future pacing them into the thing like, what do you think your life would feel like if you were living just joyfully from it? And again, culturally, you use the words, but if you were living confidently with the clarity of your core purpose statement, what do you think it would support you doing? And having them step into what that is. Fabiola?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have some experiences with resistance with clients, and sometimes it comes from not knowing exactly what is the journey that they were engaged in. So because this is a company that is worldwide invited to establish this engagement with coaches, I think I might offer this point of view of much more that point of view, engaging as following each step by a time. I would not say here baby steps, but maybe step by step. And how can I help that dance to start?
I love that. And another part of the intentionality with intelligent leadership when you're walking your coaching client through it is that they see the specificity of this. We're doing this, we're doing this. They're building on each other. They're developing the momentum. They're taking them to a particular place. There's a process with it, and it's measured so that they can see how well they're doing. And it's not something. And for some people, there's so much comfort in that because there's something that it's not telling you that for the next 3 hours we're going to do this, but this is what's going to take us here, and then we're going to be doing that. And they can step into the vision of what that's going to be and how it's going to inform what they're doing. And it all ties back to what they're being measured on and held accountable for, and what their vision of what success looks like for them, which, by the way, final little statement here that you all know about. Many of us have coached someone to, as they're going through the exploration of what they're doing, they realize that where they are is not where they choose to be. It's happened with intelligent leadership as well. That something just didn't feel right, but they, it's a good job. I don't want this. I don't want that. As they step more clearly into it. However, the gift in that, and it's certainly not what we don't coach so that people don't have, that they leave their job. However, when they've got that and they've now got the confidence of who they are and what they're doing, it's going to be a beautiful gift for them in their lives. And sometimes it's staying in the same company doing something else or something else, or leaving. But it's also then if they're staying where they're at, they're like, yeah, they're more connected with it. They're more integrally connected with it. So long day for everyone. My assignment for you is to begin the journey with your core purpose statement. As with the MLEI, I am glad to help anyone with your core purpose statement. And you see who else is in this room together if you'd like to work with each other and do your core purpose statements together and begin your journey together with that, whatever works for you. It's our goal that you now model for your coaching clients, and you've seen why that's so valuable, that you model the core purpose statement with your coaching clients. So going through it is very helpful. What other questions do you have? And then we're going to do the takeaway. Any other outstanding questions?
No, I have feedback, but it's fine.
All right. Well, I'm going to start. I'll go this way. So I'll start with you. What feedback do you have?
Well, I'm very appreciative of today's session. I thought it was extremely clear, well organized. It helped me a lot to understand the two concepts. I also feel that Rich in his generosity is he's amazing, and you're very, very clear. So thank you for that. And I appreciate also everybody in the room because we're a small group, and that also allows us to share and so on. So no, I'm very happy. Thank you very much to everyone. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing so much. The depth of what we're able to do is enriched when you share, because we're learning from each other. So thank you very much for staying with that. Appreciate it. I'm the next one on the screen, and I'm not going to share. But I'll go to Amelia.
Emily.
I loved, and I wrote it as big as I could. Undo what does not support us anymore and replace them with what does. Love that. I guess that it you know, a lot of the things it applies to ourselves as a coach first. So, you know, it doesn't make any sense that you're trying to preach to the choir. So it's that just tells me, yes, stop doing what does not serve you anymore. So, you know, we have new and fresh messages to share with our clients. So I appreciate that.
Beautiful. Give yourself permission and do that. Absolutely. And if you struggle with that, pick an accountability partner. I am big on accountability partners, by the way. I'm huge on an accountability partner. A big part of what I do in my life is also help people who are family caregivers. That was a big part of my life. And it's often difficult for us to practice self-care. It's a lot easier when you get an accountability partner. So when we're coaching and we're looking at our own growth and development, accountability partners are vital for what we do. Amelia, your picture there with that smiling face, that is such a great picture of you. Profile picture, that's beautiful.
That's when I was young.
You're still young. You're young at heart.
Yes,
Bobby,
that's true.
Likewise, Claudia said, really, really enriching having this small group, and I am much more clear about not only the lay, but also the CPS. And my takeout is the inventory words, our own repertoire in service of others. And as maybe you said, no matter what, go back to your CPS to inform you and support you.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Christine.
Yeah, the CPS exercise reminds me very much of an exercise I do with all of my clients, and they all go through it. And it's called Discovering Your Essence. And they come up with 5 words that represent the essence and the core of who they are without having to do or prove anything to anyone. And I always start with sharing mine. So I really, and this is kind of like a little bit like putting it in a phrase or a sentence, or kind of like fleshing it out a little bit further in a you know, a slightly different flavor of it. So yeah, and the phrase I always use is essence begets essence. So bringing my the being of my core purpose is what will bring out the being of someone else's core purpose. And that's what I'm taking away with me. And that's what I'll be taking into the homework that you assigned to create it for ourselves. Because it'll be the ripple for others.
It will. Yes, it absolutely will. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Christine.
Yep. Thank you.
Are you looking to unmute?
Did you call me too?
I was calling Deborah.
Oh.
She's next to my screen. Oh, I thought you were looking to unmute. Sorry.
Sorry. Bueno, voy aquí con mi mejor inglés. I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn about this work methodology and tools and embracing my purpose.
Oh, beautiful. I'm turning my, I can't help myself. I got to turn my reactions back on. There we go.
I love it.
There you go. Roberto.
Yeah, well, a very profound day, both sessions, and I said, gave me more order about the process, the whole process, you know. The level one was a very big picture, and I think that this session of today, for me, give me a more order, and no, so inspiring. That's it. Happy to be here.
Well, thank you very much. Carolina.
Well, I agree with everyone that has speak. For me, was perfect that today is Saturday, so we have this long day looking at ourselves first of all, and recognizing maybe some patterns. So, well, I love the session of the morning. And you are very clear, as Claudia and Fabiola said too. So that's it. I'm very grateful for that. And the CPS work, I love that you say I am, because with that only word, I understand everything that I have to do. So I'm amazing that I have a lot of work. We have a lot of work, but it will be a wonderful journey to do all we have to do. So thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And we're all on this journey together. Questions will come up and things like that. And you know, we're here for you. Rich and I are both here for you. And if we don't know the answer, we'll find someone who does. All right. Fisak.
Thank you very much, Sue, and the group as well. I've already, as I had already outlined, I participated to the weekly trainings, but for me here, to be in a small group, to ask questions and to interact was really, really much appreciated, let's say. As far as I understand, CPS is such a tool that leads the way directly to the inner core, whereas MLEI has the analytical expression as an assessment tool. CPS is more the emotional and spiritual side of it. And thank you for letting us be educated so that we will educate our clients, the customers as well. In a way, why it is important and how to use it in order to be the basis for making life directing decisions or daily decisions throughout the daily life, the difficulties that they might choose. So it was really very nice to be to have this subject in a small group. I really appreciate everybody's inputs and your valuable experience and inputs as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. And is it more clear to people why we begin with the core purpose statement before we get to the MLEI? Even though we didn't teach it that in that order, there's a way we start so we can begin the journey there. So thank you very much. Joelle.
Well, folks, sorry, I stepped in late. As I said, I was in the sessions last Monday and Tuesday. But it is good that I'm here to give my feedback because I really love this too. I believe that every one of us know that anything and everything has to start from deep inside. But it is the first time that I see a system structuralized in this way, starting from the inner and going to the outer. So I want to congratulate John and the JMG family for having brought us beautiful models within a system that approaches perfection. I'm very excited to be with you in this team.
Well, thank you very much. And if you guys liked it, you can go ahead and send messages to John or Nick or both and tell them that if it was helpful to you, because our goal is that we continue to have things that are really helpful and of value to you. So thank you very much, Mustafa.
So thank you so much. I was like Joel, I was on Monday and Tuesday, but for some reason I really feel that today it was a lot different. Maybe because the small group or so, but a lot of things start to resonate with me. The intelligent leadership models start to kind of pop up, and I start to see some nuances there. So thank you so much because you are sharing all what you are sharing from your heart, and it's resonating with us. So thank you so much. That was a really, really great experience today. Just one request. So can we get the recording for this?
Yes.
Because I did not get the recording for the Monday.
Not, but you
Okay.
will. Here's what
Okay.
happened with the recording. Just
Yeah,
to
but today was really, really exceptional. I like to have today's.
You're going to get the recordings from Monday and Tuesday because you were there, and you're also going to get the ones from today. What happened is that the recordings were so big, we already had other recordings and we ran out of space. So full transparency, the file that we had couldn't take the size of them. So we put Monday and Tuesday in a holding pattern until we figure out the right solution so we won't run out of space anymore. And I didn't want to have like a Band-Aid thing where it's like, okay, well, because I could have just put them in, here, and then you could have it for, no. We wanted to have the right thing. So you're going to get them.
Thank you so much.
But we wanted to make sure we've got them in the right place. So we have a solution, which is good. And as soon as we get them available, you will get the recordings for it. And thank you very much. And again, we're here for you. So anything that we can do, please don't hesitate. And I appreciate, these sessions are for you. And I so appreciate the fact that you leaned in, you asked questions, you pulled out of us what was important to you. And that's the only way that makes this as valuable as it was. So I am so respectful of the fact that you invested your time. And this is a Saturday. I mean, you came today so that you could invest so much of your day for this. And it's a wonderful reflection of how you're going to be supportive of this with the Santander project. And so I thank you very much. And anything I can be doing to help and support you, I'm here. One last set of hearts, and then off you go for the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Oh, good. We got lots of hearts going. All right, I love it. Love it. There you go. I got one. Oh, good. Yeah, Roberto's got those too. All right, here we go. Love it. And Deborah. All right, you guys, take care. Enjoy.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye-bye.